Here is what no one tells you about rehabbing rental properties. You really only need like 3 people in order to be able to do this. When we started thinking about rehabbing within real estate investing, one of the reasons that I love that is because it's one of the easiest ways to start to be able to turn yourself into a bank, to use the same down payment monies over and over again and not have to worry about how you're coming out of pocket to purchase your next rental property. I talked about this in our episode all about the best strategies in real estate investing. So if you have not listened to that episode, I do recommend you go back and take a listen to that first. But today we're going to be talking all about getting that rehab done. And usually when a new investor starts to take that on, or maybe you've been in another strategy in real estate and now you're moving over into more complicated rehab flips, things of that nature, it seems very daunting. This is a place that a lot of people, especially a lot of women, tend to get stuck on, right? You might be sitting there being like, but I'm not handy. I haven't done these things. How am I supposed to know? How have you all have heard horror stories about contractors and everything in that space? And that's already starting to dilute what your thoughts are already about doing this flip. But it's a fantastic opportunity to make a bunch of money and to be able to flip that property and use that to really then fund your next rental and your next rental and your next rental. And I'm here to tell you it's not as difficult as you think it is. There really are only 3 people that you're going to need on your team here. We always talk about real estate investing as really being that team sport. And here is how I break down when I am doing a rehab on that property. Okay. When I have that property, the first things that I need to think about are what projects need to be done. You need to be able to have that punch list of what items need to be done. What are you actually rehabbing? What are you replacing? What are you going to be able to just to paint? What are you completely gutting? What does that look like? You need to get the scope of what that project looks like and what all those actions are. Once you have that, what I actually like to do with that, before I start to go even price that out, is I break that down into 3 sections. Okay. I break that down into me, handyman, contractor versus somebody specialized. Okay. This is what we're going to break down today because I feel like this is a great way that you'll be able to save money and really get a ton of control over your rehab. First things that I do is I go through and I think about what I personally am going to be doing work on that property. If there's anything, right? This I usually actually put, I invest with my husband. So I'll also put items. He gets his whole own honey-do list just from this. But we'll go through that and decide what are the items that we actually are going to be able to do that labor for. Okay. Over the years, I've actually become really good with landscaping. I do the painting, all patching. That type of work tends to be on me. My husband has become very good with light plumbing, electric, things in that nature. He's actually a really good handyman. And those are all things that we've really kind of learned through real estate investing. What's great about that is those weren't necessarily skills that we had so much, but there were so many resources where you can learn simple things of this nature. YouTube is absolutely fantastic. How do I fix this? How do I lay a floor? How do I install carpet? All of those different things you really can find on YouTube. And it's a great way to look at and do a little bit of research into it and say, hey, is this something that I feel comfortable taking on? Or is this something that I'm going to have to outsource? I'm actually going to give a shout out to one of our lady landlords, Michelle Sampson. She is a member of the Lady Landlords Inner Circle, and she's been crushing it with a rehab gut job that she is working on now. This was something that she already planned on doing a couple things. She actually found a handyman that she's been working with and kind of hired him and was like, hey, okay, this is the next project I have for you. This is the next project I have for you. And quite often that handyman will actually say back to her, no, you can actually just YouTube that. You can save a ton of money. You can do it yourself. And I think that's a really, really cool relationship where then she can really start to get some of these skills and start learning what she will be able to do on her own rehab. Okay. So when I look at that list, I also think about what my time is, right? What do I actually enjoy doing? There are absolutely pieces of rehabs that I just do not find fun. I do not have the time for. And honestly, my time is worth more than really just paying somebody else to do it. But I do enjoy a lot of those projects. So I look at that list and I already decide what we are going to be able to do ourselves. Okay. We now take those items out. I usually like to do this all in a spreadsheet. So that way I'm able to really put what items we are doing. And then once again, now I'm just really looking for a cost from the idea of the tools or of the materials that I'm going to need to be able to move forward. Then the next thing that I'll do is be able to look at that handyman. Okay. What are the things that maybe I don't necessarily need a full contractor? I don't necessarily need somebody very specialized to be able to get these projects done, but more simple tasks that either, once again, I don't have the time for, I don't have the care for, or I just don't have the knowledge for. Okay. That's really a great way that I'm able to usually save a lot of money by paying somebody that's that handyman kind of space rather than a full contractor or somebody completely specialized. So I go through, and what's really great about this is I've been able to find really fantastic workers. They're usually people that maybe they're doing this on the side of their full-time contracting job. Maybe they are somebody that is specialized in something and they do a little bit of work on the outside of that day job and they're able to pick up projects. These people have really become my boots on the ground, right? I'm able to give them consistent work across multiple properties of mine. This also really is very helpful since many of you know that I manage properties from out of the country. I live down in the Dominican Republic for half the year. When all of a sudden I have turnover at a property, I can also, even though it's not a flip, but I'm able to use these handymen since I'm able to give them consistent work throughout the year. I can have that handyman really act as my super and really act as my point person for that tenant turnover situation, not just getting the property ready, but really making sure to get that property and that unit up and ready to rent again and can really be there on the ground for me. So it's a fantastic way to really keep them in your circle, keep feeding them business, which always keeps people happy and then coming back. When you find a good handyman or contractor, you want to make sure to keep them in your loop for when you're going to be able to do something. That next bucket that you want to look for then is your contractor specialized. If this is a larger project, if this is something that you really are going to be needing different types of multiple teams that are going to be brought in, you really might want to look for that contractor. This is also incredibly important if you need permits for anything, if you need to make sure that there are licenses, and make sure that you're getting also insurance from contractors. This is very important. You need to make sure that you understand the laws of the towns that you are doing your work in to really make sure that you can stay up and up on those things. Also, I mark out all of my specialized people. With that, once again, electricians, plumbers, anything really in those certain categories, personally, I am not going near. So those are things that you really want to make sure that you factor in what those costs are going to be. You might be saying, okay, great, Becky, I can actually now take my punch list and break it down with those 3 different categories, me, a handyman, and then a contractor, somebody specialized in something. But how do I find these people? I'm telling you now, your best bet is always referrals. Head over to the Lady Landlords Facebook group, ask there who people are working with, okay? The best way to actually keep a contractor coming back to you, a handyman coming back to you, right, especially if you only have a small portfolio, is to always be making referrals to them. That's something I actually did with the roofer that I had. He did a little bit of other work for me too, was a great roofer, and I was able to refer him to a lot of other people that I knew in the area. I will never forget, it was about 2 years ago now, we had a hurricane in New York. Literally that next morning, when so many houses had damage, there was so much flooding that was going on, there were so many issues on so many different people's roofs, I actually had that roofer call me. First thing in the morning, he said, hey, I'm in your neighborhood. I know you own multiple rentals on the street. Just wanted to stop by in the morning before I go out on my calls to see if you had any damage that you would like me to take care of. He thought of me. He thought of my business, of my tenants, of my properties, because of all the referrals that I'd given to him to make sure that my properties was okay. So many other people were dealing with leaks, with water coming in, with damage on their roof, and they couldn't get in touch with anybody and couldn't get anybody out for days. But yet I actually had my roofer calling me, letting me know that he was there and ready to do that work because of that relationship that I built with him over those couple of years. With that, those referrals, that's why they become so important. If you are looking for any of these roles, make sure to ask for referrals, ask for references, ask for where else they've done work, and actually go and call those people, talk to them, look at the work that they've done, see if they can send you pictures, make sure that they had a good experience. I feel like this is where so many horror stories really come to play, is because we're not asking enough questions and we're not doing our due diligence on the front side to really make sure that we found the right person. The second place that people tend to go incredibly long when working with contractors or any of these other professions is by not getting things in writing, okay? You hear all the time about how this went so far over budget, how it went completely past the timeline, yet these things were never actually written in writing. There's no scope of work. There's no conversation about where the materials are coming from, what the costs are of those things, what it looks like if there is actually maybe a penalty if timelines get extended. I personally, instead of doing penalties when people actually go for extensions and go overtime, I actually pay more and give incentives for people to finish work faster, right? It's the idea of really anytime you can incentivize somebody to do something better, you're going to be in a better place than actually taking that away from them. So starting to put those things in writing, starting to really understand who is the person that you are hiring and doing that due diligence. I completely understand the timelines with the rehab. I completely understand time is money. We want to be able to get things done fast, but spending a little bit more time upfront, really making sure to vet and get the right handyman, the right contractor, the right electrician, and on the right project for their skill set will save you headache, time, and money down the line. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast. Please do make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next episode of the Lady Landlords Podcast. We release new episodes every single Tuesday. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords Podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlords.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.